Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk to you briefly about this. The ACLU, as you know, is getting involved in the Pete Santilli situation. Two of the 8 people, I believe 6 or 8 people that were detained during the Malheur standoff incident, which killed Lavoy Finicum, have been released. And the ACLU is getting involved in what I believe to be trying to get Pete Santilli released as well. This is what everybody's trying to do. They're trying to get these guys released under every single situation possible for one thing versus another. Personally, folks, I think the general idea is if he wasn't guilty of aiding or this or that of one thing or another, they would have probably let him go by now, but I haven't seen the charges, I haven't seen the phone records or anything else to know how involved Pete Santilli was in the actual organization of the taking or the reporting of the, the refuge occupation standoff thereof. The ACLU of Oregon has come to the defense of Pete Santilli, one of the 16 people indicted by federal prosecutors last week for organizing an armed occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in eastern Oregon. While many people might disagree with the statements made by those involved in the Malheur takeover, Americans have a fundamental right to freedom of speech, wrote Matt Dos Santos, the legal director of ACLU in Oregon, a statement posted to the group's website Tuesday. So there's a lot on this, folks. It's just a matter of time before we get the complete version. And I do believe that him and various others are actually being detained for political reasons alongside those where he was just doing his job reporting the situation. Pete Santilli, as we know, is probably known for going to these things and probably participating in more than just the press conference of it. Even in this photo, as you can see, he is dressed in military fatigues. Whether he's served or not, I do not know. And if he has, great. If he hasn't, well, then he's just wearing, something that was at the refuge or something. I don't know the whole story. Anyways, folks, so I'm bringing 2 sources today. One from OPB, one from Sun Times Portland. And this is basically the situation. People are trying to get this guy out. He's been in there since Jan 26, along with the militia leaders. So U.S. District Chief Justice Michael Mosman affirmed a decision to keep Santilli in jail, ruling that some of his statements posed a risk to the community, specifically law enforcement. So that's definitely something. So here's this from OPB. U.S. District Chief Judge Michael Mosman affirmed a decision to keep Santilli in jail, ruling that some of his statements posed a risk to community, specifically law enforcement. And that basically the ACLU was saying that Santilli was being politically polarized and too many downright offensive, basically is his First Amendment rights to do this and do that. Well, when you kind of hit the jail cell, you kind of should shut the hell up. I mean, you can't, at that point, you're pretty much screwed. But, I've listened to some of these things. Santilli's court-appointed defense attorney, Tom Cohen, said the ACLU made a strong point in his statement. I'm pleased to see that they are taking his position on Pete, Cohen said. So there is some sympathy within the situation, but, I've heard some of Pete Santilli's talks, and, getting involved in the actual standoff is definitely one of the things that kind of you don't do. And from what I heard, he was actually encouraging, people to come to the refuge and to join this thing. And that's okay, I guess, to some degree when you say, protesters with signs and, bring food and, drinks, and okay, fine. But I've heard him go off once or twice, and if you do that in a courtroom, they're gonna hold you. I mean, it's just, I'm certain he's gone off on the chain and said, these people killed a man in the streets, and this and that. And I'm not going to repeat anything because I don't want to be held accountable for anything. But it's just one of those things, folks, where you are the press in one perspective, but when you start taking on job assignments or kind of going along with the situation, you become, an accessory to the facts. And if he's a media person, you cannot become an accessory to the media or to the situation you're in. That's like saying a journalist who's investigating a tornado would, start kicking in shop windows and, destroying cars outside before or after the tornado hits, And the speech he used, I'm sure we'll never hear it, but I can imagine at this point being involved in the situation as he's been. He's had some choice words, and I'm sure there's been 2 or 3 good brawls, and I guarantee you he is probably not a peaceful man in this situation. I'm certain the words have been exchanged, and I'm sure he's threatened to kill or threatened to do this or threatened to do that. So they're going to have him in there for a while, and I don't agree with it, but in the end, he'll get a nice settlement. Hopefully, he won't be in there long. So, I hope he's out within 6 months. Thank you.